All right. Welcome back, listeners. We got a question for you.
Wait.
What?
What is Dolby Discrete 4.0?
That's the fucking question. That's what I was just getting to.
And how...
Okay, does everybody know how surround sound works? 5.1 or 7.1 or 8.1. The 0.1 is a subwoofer, and the other number, the 5 or the 7 or the 8 or even the 6, that's the number of speakers in the room. So, say my main TV at home, I only have 3 speakers in the front. It's 3.0.
Thanks, Mark.
But this movie...
What the fuck is for?
This movie, we're just looking at the back of the DVD case, and it says, Audio, English, 4.0 Dolby Discrete. Is it seriously like, okay, one in the center, one on the left and right to get sort of the frontal surround, and then one in the back, just in the right behind you?
Maybe.
That seems weird.
Yeah, just hit you from all sides. It's like bam, 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 bam.
Bam, bam. Bam, bam.
So you want to tell me what this movie is this week? Because
well, this feature presentation in Dolby Discrete 4.0 is Tom Selleck starring Runaway. Ta-da! Runaway. I hope everybody listening is going like, I fucking love Runaway. Because I love Runaway. It's not a very good movie, but I love it a lot. What year did it come out?
It looks early 90s.
It's 1984.
84.
1984.
Well, that makes sense.
That's 80s Tom Selleck on the cover. Basically, I just judge which movies I should buy by how cool the gun on the cover is.
When did Magnum P.I. start airing on TV?
I feel like that was the late 70s. Maybe 78, 79?
Wow.
Maybe 80? I don't know.
That makes sense.
But this is even if it was 80, this is 4 years after that.
Yeah.
This is when he got into movies, like 3 Men and a Baby.
Yes. 3 Men and a Baby.
This is Runaway. It was written and directed by Michael Crichton, creator of Jurassic Park.
What?
Yeah.
And Westworld.
And Westworld. And
Way to be
Sphere.
timely.
And Timeline. Yeah.
Timeline?
Tell me about it.
He didn't do Timeline.
Timeline.
Did he?
Yeah.
What?
That's a Michael Crichton. He didn't direct it. He wrote the book. That was, wasn't that like Gerard Butler's American breakout film?
You know, you could be right. I wouldn't know.
I'm pretty sure. It was not a good movie. Like most Michael Crichton movies. Even some might argue like this movie, but it's still cool.
The history of this movie, from what I remember, is back when we used to be roommates. Was it? We used to have bad movie nights. Was this part of bad movie night, or was this after the fact? I feel like it was after, and you were so excited that you got a copy of this movie.
It was hard to find.
I can't wait.
I had to go to Amoeba, and this fucking thing cost me like $28 for a shitty DVD.
For a DVD.
Yeah, it was.
You're an idiot.
I'm glad I have it. I hold it close to me. Yeah, it was not for a bad movie night, but it was just a movie that I wanted my friends to see. And then we got all the friends together and nobody wanted to watch a movie anymore. So I sort of watched it by myself in the corner like a loser. But hey, I still enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, losers need movies too, man.
Yeah, Runaway's a loser's movie. That's why we're talking about it tonight.
Well, okay. Well, now, what attracted you to this movie?
Well, I was a kid and it had robots in it.
What made you bring it here tonight to say, hey, let's watch this movie? Because
not a lot of people these days remember it. And maybe because it wasn't a huge hit. I don't know if it was a huge hit. I'll have to research that. But I always thought it was a fun sci-fi action adventure kind of a movie. Tom Selleck notwithstanding. Oh, Gene Simmons is in it too.
What?
Yeah.
Is his tongue in it?
Yes. I mean, all of Gene Simmons.
Did I see Kirstie Alley is on there too?
Kirstie Alley, yeah. We got Tom Selleck, Cynthia Rhodes, who is, you would recognize her, I think.
Cynthia Rhodes.
She's in a lot of 80s movies, 90s stuff.
Yeah, I totally don't recognize her. But
really?
Oh, cool. They put a little suggestion here. Other science fiction thrillers that presumably this movie is trying to tell you is like.
Yeah.
Fifth Element.
Not like Runaway at all.
Yeah, Gattaca.
Similar because it's trying to do like a real world futuristic story.
Huh. Okay. Johnny Mnemonic.
Whoa, not even close. Not even fucking close. But don't investigate the DVD case too closely. You don't want to get any spoilers. Basically, Tom Selleck is a robot cop. He's not a robot. He is a cop who hunts runaway robots, hence the name Runaway. He hunts down runaway bots.
So Blade Runner is what we're watching.
But they're not human-like bots in this world. They're sort of like they look. Some of them look like
A toaster.
a vacuum cleaner, just sort of like rolling around the house. They're very boxy.
Me.
This one, yeah, it's a giant one of those. I mean, they have sort of like personalities, but they're not human-like. They're very much appliances, very mechanical still. There's some like killer spider robots. This was only 1984. Animatronics were not like super advanced, but for the time, the stuff in this movie, bleeding edge technology. Bleeding edge.
Now, when you say bleeding edge, is that because the metal is so sharp? Because they didn't believe in rounded edges in the 80s?
I think we should start the movie now, Chad.
Fine, Mark. Let's start this fucking movie.
It is the future. Mysteriously spreading across an unsuspecting city, machines trained to serve humans are turning against them.
What do you got, Jerry?
Model 912. Could have 2 people inside the house.
I'm going in.
You're going in. We can send a disarm robot in
It
there.
hit the floater, it'll hit the disarm, and any minute it's going to decide to hit the kid.
An ingenious conspiracy has begun, and someone has to stop the madman who started it all.
We've got a non-standard chip here. Can turn any domestic computer into a killing machine.
Working late at night all by yourself?
I just had a few things to finish up. No big
I
deal.
insist. Let me help you.
No.
Bug detected.
A lot of bugs, Jackie. I thought it was clean.
Luther really wants to keep track of you. Why's that, Jackie? This is a bad guy. He's killed 5 so far. I want him.
I'm telling you, I can't go out there. I can't go out!
What does it take to get through to you? He sees everything. He knows everything that's going on in here.
Can't run away, Ramsey. My little machines will find you wherever you go.
You heard of a bullet that has your name on it? This isn't a runaway. This is murder.
We're never gonna make it through this one.
Runaway. Tom Selleck. Cynthia Rhodes. Gene Simmons. Runaway. From TriStar Pictures.
Yeah. Okay. So, we just finished Runaway.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna call it one of my favorite movies.
Why not?
But
You said it was earlier.
No, it's not one of my favorite movies. It's not like in my top 10. But I watched it a lot when I was a kid, so I have a lot of nostalgic feelings for it.
Now, did you find it on on TV, or did you
I think it
actually
played on
were your
HBO a
parents
lot.
like, hey, let's go check this movie out?
I think it was on TV.
Yeah, okay.
It probably was just on HBO a lot. Let's see, what's it rated? PG-13. I think I
Really?
saw one area where ADR replaced a swear word. Like, Kirstie Alley says, "Are you fucking kidding me?" But she actually says, "Are you freaking kidding me?"
It's,
Little things like that.
I mean, it strikes me like this movie reminds me. It had a lot of different things going for it that actually reminded me of other movies, including Aliens, which was shot 2 years after this. Because there's the whole elevator sequence from the whole battle. You have the little spider things everywhere, which are kind of like little
mechanical facehuggers.
Mechanical facehuggers.
But the facehugger was an alien back in '79, at least.
All right, let's work our way through the plot a little bit first.
Okay, so I mentioned before, he's a renegade robot cop. He's not a robot himself. He stops runaway robots, and most of the work seems to be like industrial stuff. They go to construction sites, they go to farms where robots are kind of going haywire, and the way they take them out is usually pretty simple. Sometimes they shoot them, sometimes they bash them with a chair, sometimes they throw a jacket over it so they can't see and they can't hurt anybody anymore. But that's like, it's a whole division of the police, and I thought it was LAPD, but it looks like it was shot up in Vancouver. So we're going to just call this generic Sci-Fi City 1.
Sci-Fi City 1, yeah, that makes sense. But like and the robots themselves are just like, they really are like, it's as if your PS3 just came alive and started zapping you. You'd be like, in real life, you'd be like, that's dumb, and then you'd kick it across the floor and not think anything of it. This one, they're like so ultra serious. They play everything as if it was as if Michael Crichton said, okay, I'm seeing all these robot movies like Terminator. When did Terminator come out?
That was at 81?
It feels like it would have come out before this, and
I
maybe,
don't know.
and there was all these kind of movies like this whole fear of technology.
Well, this was the era
at
when,
the time.
yeah, like when robots were taking over assembly jobs,
right,
in car factories and whatnot. So I think there was this fear, like Michael Crichton comes in trying to say, let's not go crazy with this robot thing, guys, because it could be bad.
Well,
for
it was
us.
almost like he, because there's elements of Westworld in this, which, of course, Crichton wrote
and directed.
And maybe this was almost his response to, well, Westworld was kind of like maybe the futuristic version of
more humanoid robots.
But I want to do something that's realistic in today's world.
Yeah, so it still feels like it's set in the 80s. It just happens that everybody's got these big lumbering robots roaming around their house. Like Sergeant Ramsey, played by Tom Selleck, he has Lois. He has a robot at home named Lois, which is like 4 feet tall.
Basically, George Jetson's like robot.
Rosie
that just rolls around and
it just rolls around. Looks like a stack of microwaves essentially,
and acts like Siri. Like she gets everything wrong that he says.
Yeah.
He gives her a command. She's like,
"Okay, I will forget that." No, don't forget that. Like you got to keep it on the schedule.
Why do you even own this robot?
Everything
like,
sucks.
I want, make me some chicken pad thai tonight. Okay, I'll make you some Red Bull covered in aspirin.
I will begin painting a picture of the chicken. Yeah, like the robots are pretty clunky. They don't work perfectly all the time, except the bad guys' robots.
Of course.
Yeah, everything.
The bad guy being Gene Simmons.
From Kiss. Sans makeup. Well, the plot kicks off. There's a runaway robot, which is a household model, and it's killed a few people. It's killed like 2 family members. The dad is off at work, and there is a baby stuck inside the house. And we'll get back to the baby. We'll get back to that. But it's one of these little things. They actually describe it in the movie. It's about the size of a hat box.
It's a hat box with wheels that's wielding a...
And it's got a big robot arm on the front.
357 Magnum.
Yeah, it somehow got into the sock drawer and pulled out a 357 Magnum, which the sound effects guys made sound like a shotgun racking before it... Boom! Well, anyway, Tom Selleck dispatches the robot, shoots it with a little laser pistol.
You can't pass up the fact that they've got this nosy camera woman and cameraman outside.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean, that's
she's
part
like
of it.
trying to interview him, like, hey,
just...
who's in the house? What's going on in the house? And then they send the camera guy in, walks in, follows him in, of course. And
right, he goes in
away.
by himself and gets immediately killed by the robot. So they do try to set this up as a world where the robots are dangerous. I don't know how this robot in the first scene can even pick up the gun. Its claw mandible deal doesn't even look capable of pulling a trigger. Like it's too big to fit a finger in there. But we don't really get a detailed shot. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's like we don't really need to know because it's already killed the cameraman. That's the whole robot's purpose, really.
Right. It's killed 2 people before we even get there, and then another person with a gun. But Ramsey saves the day, saves the baby, comes outside to applause from even the news people, I think.
Yeah, even though he just lost our buddy. Hey, you know what? Hey, we're going to clap anyway.
Nobody even notices the guy's dead. But the dad has run away. That's pretty weird. He just takes off, even though his kid was still inside. Next day, they get the guts of this runaway robot to the police station, and they find it's got like a renegade chip installed in it that made it go haywire and kill everybody. We start kind of piecing it together that this guy who ran away, who left his kid in the house, he's been into some bad stuff, making technology for evil uses for Gene Simmons.
Of course.
Yeah. And by the way, that guy, he never asks about his kid. Never asks about the baby.
That's true.
He took off before the baby was saved, so he doesn't know. And it never comes up again. Oh well.
Like, oh well.
He doesn't give a shit. He's worried about his own skin at that point. Well, Gene Simmons shows up with a fucking cool gun that for some reason Tom Selleck is brandishing on the cover of the DVD.
Yeah.
It's this mirrored silver pistol with this huge clip on the front. It's pretty cool.
Just heat-seeking
For like
bullets.
it shoots heat-seeking
anything
bullets.
you shoot at, basically, you're going to hit whatever you want.
Yeah. He doesn't even have to aim. He's going to shoot between his legs, over his shoulder. He'll nail it.
Now, before we talk about like the rest of the story, I want to know, because this movie was scored by Jerry Goldsmith, and usually, you know, you
He's
watch a
pretty
movie,
good,
you
yeah.
sit down and you're like, you know, hey, Jerry Goldsmith scored this. Man,
He's one of
done
those
some
names
great,
that you can, yeah.
he's done some great things, and man,
This thing was loaded up with 80s synth, like, machine music.
it's pretty bad.
Pretty bad. And I'm sure at the time they thought it fit thematically because it was a movie about robots, and they were like, yeah, all this keyboard shit will sound great against this backdrop. And they probably thought it would be timeless and perfect, and holy cow, it is cheesy as all get out.
Now, do you think that was his direction? Crichton just called up, hey, Jerry, can you just make me the shittiest, most robotic sounding Daft Punk wannabe music you could possibly think of?
Michael, who's Daft Punk?
Like, yeah, you know that Trent Reznor guy? Yeah, I want you to mimic him. Who?
Trent Reznor is only 12 years old in 1984. No, I don't know what the direction would be for something like this. I think they just, you know, it was a sci-fi action movie for TriStar.
How big do you think this movie was at the time? Because I'm under the impression that this is like the studio basically treated this as if it was going to be a huge hit. I mean, they're like, oh, Michael Crichton, okay, we can get Jerry Goldsmith to score it, you know.
It was still Michael
Shot
Crichton
on
before
Anamorphics.
Jurassic Park, though. He wasn't like a megastar. He had Westworld.
Then Tom Selleck, you know, I'm
Yep.
pretty sure you said Magnum P.I. had started by this point.
Yeah.
So he's already a
Definitely.
TV star. I don't think Kirstie Alley wasn't on Cheers yet, but you had all the makings. You know, you got Gene Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly the studio thought this was going to be big enough that, I mean, I'm guessing that they put a bigger budget into this movie than another studio would put into, say, Aliens in a few years.
Yeah, which was how much again?
Was apparently around $16 million, I think, was how much.
$16 million.
To do a huge
and that was a
sci-fi,
huge,
but
pretty
that's
epic
also with a
military-
filmmaker. That's a filmmaker, James Cameron, who can take something small or make something huge out of something small.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's pretty apparent, like watching the direction of this movie and like how it's shot and how it's photographed and set up, and like you said, as we were watching it, you pointed out how many oneers there are, like how many just, you know, wide lens set up.
It's a walk and talk or something.
Watch everything happen. Like, there's not much to the direction. It's Crichton has his ideas and he likes to write them out, and they appear in his books. Like you said, he always kind of gets on like a little it's not really a soapbox, but he gets on something and says, you know, here's a thing. In this case, it's robots.
Yeah.
And we need to, you know, just be careful. Like maybe they'll pick up a 357 Magnum and just blow my head off or something. You know.
Any future screenwriters listening to this, it's okay if your story has a meaning and a point and a purpose and a bit of a soapbox, but holy shit, don't do it like Michael Crichton. He puts it into the mouths of half his characters. If you think of Ian from Jurassic Park, you know, before he even thought if you should make it, you just did. You just made it. That was his whole point with Jurassic Park. Technology, science out of control. This is more of like, it's almost, if it was on a grander scale, this would be a James Bond story, because it's about a supervillain who's trying to get his hands on some advanced technology no one else in the world has to make an unstoppable weapon, even though Tom Selleck stops this weapon about 20 times in this movie.
Well,
this heat-seeking bullet can lock on to a certain person's heat signature. So it's not just going to go to the nearest hot thing. It'll go after a particular hot thing. And the whole point is that it can go around corners. Like in the first scene, we see the gun used. It's zipping through pipes and shit that are stacked up in an alley.
Which is actually, it was shot almost exactly like Alien 3 shot the alien
The
chase
wide angle.
sequences because they took like a. It looked like they shot on spherical lenses, but then stretched it out to anamorphic, so it's got this flattened look.
Yeah, this POV, like a tiny eyeball kind of a look to it.
Yeah, like there's just this chase, which, you know, if this is the case of that happening for the very first time, because it may well have been, you know, of course Fincher would have done it in '92 for Alien 3, so
I
this
think you should
predates
ask
that.
around, and you should see if he
I'll
saw
go find
Runaway
out.
and be
Yeah,
like, I
I'll
like
be
the look
hey,
of that.
remember Alien 3? Did you? I think
No,
you're
Alien
fired.
3 doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist anymore. They're gonna remove that from canon. But it's clear that everybody thought that, you know, that they put a lot behind it. The acting was actually pretty good. There was a pretty intense scene in the middle of it.
No, the bullet
where
removal.
they're removing a explosive bullet from somebody's arm that hasn't exploded, and, you know,
For
at
some
this
reason,
point,
we don't even know why it hasn't exploded.
if we're speaking in classical Hollywood terms, they've already established two female characters, two potential leads.
Yeah, there's...
So at this point in the movie, you don't know, well, maybe they could blow off the arm of this main lead female character and replace her with the Kirstie Alley character.
Yes.
You know, that's when I was watching, I was like kind of curious if that would happen, because old Hollywood follows
it
in
had
these rules.
sort of like they could have gone in a film noir kind of way by, you know, making the dark bad girl kind of more attractive.
Well, it had elements of this. There's that scene in The Abyss, the drowning scene. You know, where you got these two characters, and it's like kind
They're
of
antagonistic.
They've got kind of a funny little, you know, little back and forth between the two of them, and, you know, they're kind of laughing about their situation, but then it gets like intense and serious, and they're like, maybe this shit could go south. And spoiler alert: she lives, she keeps her arm.
Yeah. This is
should have watched the movie by now, because Lord knows you could find this immediately.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have to go to a specialty record shop and spend almost $30 on a movie,
right?
I think it's worth it.
I'm pretty sure you could probably find this movie on YouTube.
It has subtitles, and it, like we mentioned before, it has 4-channel Dolby audio, but apart from that, no extra features, unfortunately. But I wanted to point out, this is Cynthia Rhodes we're talking about, who plays his partner.
Cynthia Rhodes. She was great.
Cynthia Rhodes, yeah, she was, you know, surprisingly good. She is probably best known as the dancer in Dirty Dancing, who gets the botched abortion.
One.
Well, it's like Patrick Swayze's main squeeze before Jennifer Grey comes along.
Okay.
She's the one, yeah.
Don't put baby in a corner.
She's neither baby nor the corner. But she's only been in like 8 movies. She stopped acting. She did one more movie in 1991. She stopped acting.
How many Runaways can you do before, you know, you pull the plug on your career?
Well, I mean, you mean she hit peak? That was as good. Like, you can't do better
Dirty
than
Dancing
Runaway.
was obviously after this, but...
No, it was before.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, this was 84. When was
Wait,
Dirty
no.
Dancing?
No, you're right. That was 87.
Dirty Dancing was later
That was 87.
I saw that in a theater when it came out.
That's fine. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
See?
You're right. It's funny, though. She does mention, as the character, she used to be a dancer, but then she hurt her knee. And then she went on to be in Dirty Dancing as a dancer.
If this movie were made now, it would absolutely be one of those kind of movies you see that stars like every single star that hasn't been in a real movie in 10 years.
Name some of those people.
Name some. Christian Slater. Well, shit. Now he's been in Mr. Robot.
Oh.
And
a lot of direct-to-video horror things.
But you get the idea. It's the kind of movie that. Well,
Would
we were talking.
it
like
be a VOD movie?
We were talking about the two different kinds of movies that there are. There's you watch something that's set up in a very cinematic way, and then you've got a director who can understand how to tell a story cinematically.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Crichton is not that person.
Okay.
He's
just trying to translate the words onto the screen, and that's it.
Translating the words onto the screen. He's got a decent level of composition. Like, I don't know, maybe that comes from the cameraman.
Yeah, it could have been the DP. Anything.
But it's also pretty clear that he doesn't understand how to do anything than just have the actors speak their lines. Like, he doesn't understand how to build, like, tension or...
Yeah.
And so, for the most part, with the exception of that scene we were talking about, which was fairly tense, with the exception of that, I think that was more circumstantial, though. It had nothing to do with how the story was being presented to you.
Well, that scene was shot from basically her close-up, his close-up, and a shot of the monitor where we see the bullet being extracted.
Yeah.
And it was being cut between those few shots. So, yeah, there was nothing that was really built apart from, like, whatever the actors brought to it. Mm-hmm. And I think you're probably right. When Michael Crichton gets out of the actor's way, they can do better. And that was, a very intense scene just because of what was happening. But any other scene in the movie that was supposed to be intense really kind of felt cheap, felt staged.
Yeah.
Even when he's creeping around from killer robots, you kind of go like, all right, come on.
I mean, ultimately, this movie had everything of, like, a classic, forgotten action film from that era.
Mm-hmm.
And even like, the great action movies from that era, even those are probably going to be forgotten eventually because they're kind of tacky. Like, Total Recall, as great as it is, even though it came out much later, you watch it now and it's a lot of things don't stand up. Music doesn't stand up in these kind of movies, and regardless,
I feel
Jerry Goldsmith, which is hilarious to me that this movie came out 5 years after Alien, another Jerry Goldsmith score that was phenomenal and holds up great to this day.
And this is just cheese. He probably did it in a weekend. Is he dead now? Did he pass?
He passed a while ago, yeah.
Okay.
He's been...
We could ask him otherwise.
Yeah, I'd ask him. Let me call him up and ask him, yeah.
He's in the book.
Are you afraid of robots?
I'm not afraid of robots, no. I'm afraid
Would you be afraid if a robot dressed as a toaster came up, like drove up to you? Would you think that that's going to kill you?
No. So they have the element of surprise.
Now,
but if it whips out a gun, then I'd be like, oh shit, it's got a gun! Everybody run!
But you've seen the videos of the what was it, the Boston Robotics, the dog spider looking thing.
Oh,
that's like
they can like balance on their own and walk around. Those are a little creepy, but they don't do anything.
That's not terribly different than the designs of these. I mean, they're obviously more a thing
have
for my
legs
nightmares,
instead of wheels.
But like if you heard that thing coming, you'd just be like,
ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk.
It's like the Joker's music in Dark Knight. It's just like,
yeah.
So I mean, you hear this robot coming, and you just immediately like.
It's all about context. Tension. If I was surrounded by other fellow humans, or at least people I was pretty sure were human and not robots in disguise, then I would feel fine being around robots. We gotta talk about the spider robots a little bit.
The facehugger robots?
The facehugger robots.
So this movie
Gene Simmons somehow has access to unlimited numbers of killer spider robots with needles full of acid and explosives.
Okay, let's tone back the use of explosives because it's more like sparks flying out, and everybody's afraid of these sparks flying out.
Yeah, I mean, every explosion in this movie, every robot that explodes is just like Power Rangers sparks.
Yes, Power Rangers sparks, and then suddenly something catches fire nearby.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't want to be...
But these things like jump, like the first time we see this thing, it literally leaps onto someone's face like a facehugger would pounce, and then stabs them underneath the throat.
Yeah, it crawls out from under a towel, and then it just whoop,
like
jumps right up onto the face. And you can tell the actor doesn't know how to quite sell it, because he's kind of going,
it's like, what is this thing? And it's just like legs that are just like,
he's
moving around, twitching, more or less.
Remember, this is 1984, and robotics were not advanced, and they didn't have a shitload of money for the robots in this movie. So,
I don't even...
Pretty primitive.
The Nintendo robot hadn't even really come out yet, had it? Or it was like right about to.
That little guy?
Little disc. It changed like the discs or whatever. I don't remember what the hell it was.
I never understood what that was for.
Yeah,
I thought it was supposed to be like a player
afford one, so I never knew what it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
I only had the Duck Hunt gun.
That's it. Not even a controller. Just the gun.
But on occasion, like, my Nintendo would shoot lightning, like sparks out of it.
It did? Are you being serious?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, if you take a Nintendo apart and you plug it into the wall and you accidentally
Spill your
Drop.
Sprite on it.
drop a little like needle pen or something and like connect things, it's just kind of explodes in your face. And
Important safety tip: don't fuck with your NES.
these robots they live among
They live among us already. They're here. They're here. But the spider robots really did. They're like probably the main symbol of the movie. If people remembered this movie at all, it would be because of the robot spiders. But they are ridiculous because they're not all that threatening. Tom Selleck catches one in his coat pretty easily. When it jumps at him, he just goes whoop into his coat,
throws his coat on,
throws it over the edge, and it explodes all on its own. But I'm not understanding why Gene Simmons would choose that as his chosen method of assassination. Because you would think if they explode, they destroy themselves. There's no evidence left.
Well,
no, they just shoot out sparks.
These movies are always ridiculous, though. He kidnaps Tom Selleck's son and takes him to the top of a building because he's read Tom Selleck's profile. And,
he knows he's afraid of heights.
Knows that he's afraid of heights, so he goes up there. And all 80s movies kind of end in these ridiculous scenarios, like, how can we raise the stakes? Well, we'll have this huge building and we'll go... That's built by robots, first of all.
Yeah, he's surrounded by robots, which is basically his enemy at work. That's what he does for a job. He catches robots.
But the whole thing is ridiculous. It's like...
Well, tell me what's wrong with the elevator gag, though. Because, okay, they're on a construction site.
I'd be scared shitless.
He takes...
But what's the point?
He gets stuck on a cargo elevator that goes all the way to the top. Like where there's not even a floor built. It goes way higher than the rest of the building. And then, before he has a chance to even get his bearings and deal with the fact that he's so high up, which is a great shot that we both noted.
Yeah, it was a great shot.
We'll talk about that next. We'll circle back. Well, then these spider robots start showing up. Not one, not two, not four, but three. 3 of these spider bots show up, and he's stuck on an elevator up in the middle of the sky, essentially, and he's afraid of heights. So it becomes him, like, climbing the outside of the elevator, escaping the spiders, and trying to get underneath it to hit the reset button so he can go back down. Like, you tell me what's wrong with that setup. What's ridiculous about that setup?
The whole reason he's up there is because Gene Simmons is trying to get his shit back.
Yeah.
That Gene Simmons in the movie, like, he's teamed up. Well, he's not teamed up. He's kind of... Is he in...
They kiss.
He's
I
in
think they're in
cahoots
it.
with Kirstie Alley.
Yeah, she's in on the scam
but
with
she
him.
had all the microchips that were, like, the errant microchips that were making these robots
Yeah. Like,
turn.
Gene Simmons is basically... He never gets his hands on all of the bad microchips or the templates to make more.
Right. And Tom Selleck has them, and so he's lured Tom Selleck to this building to get the things back. He's holding the kid, the classic hostage situation. Here, I've got your kid.
Yeah.
Give me the damn microchips. Why can't you do this somewhere else? Why he has to go to his building? Like,
he went to the building because he's afraid of heights. He wants to put him at a disadvantage psychologically. It's a game. This is fucking chess, man. This ain't checkers. You gotta think like Gene Simmons would.
I gotta think like movie executive. Where can I put this that it's gonna look awesome? I'll put it on top of a tower.
Plus.
This isn't Die Hard. Like, that was a good reason to have it in a tall building.
Well, okay, but it is a classic thing to do in any story. When things are getting more intense and more like down to the wire, you take your story upwards, or into a tighter space. Like in Star Wars, the trench run. Mm-hmm. That's why people in horror movies, they run upstairs. They don't run out the front door because they have to be in, an enclosed space to raise the level of threat. It's purely for storytelling. It doesn't make any human sense, but in movie sense, that's what it is.
It's like the Death Star.
It's like the Death Star.
It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
The tall building is his trench run. Yeah. It's all narrowing down to a point.
Okay.
That point was at the very top of that building.
Are you buying Gene Simmons as an actor?
No. Holy shit.
A little bit?
All he can do is sit there and glare.
I thought he had pretty good presence in the first part of the movie, but then as it went on, I was like, okay, he doesn't know how to do anything but one thing.
Yeah. He does the one thing fine, And I think he does the same thing on stage in Kiss. Like, he just gets up there and kind of goes, ha ha. But he's just a cartoon. He sounds like a really bad Bond villain. He's always shouting every line.
Well, okay.
He's just he's growling and grimacing, and he's got a weird face. I don't like his asshole face.
He's got a good look. You know, I
You
don't
know,
think
if
I've
I
ever
could pull
actually
off his
seen.
hair,
I
I
don't
could
think
do
I've
that
ever
for
actually
Halloween.
seen him as anything but his Kiss makeup before. So he actually looked younger than I expected him to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not really sold on. I think he works for. He'd be good as like a side character in a Godfather movie.
Oh, okay.
For like a scene or two.
Well, like I keep making the comparison to a Bond villain. I think he would make a good heavy in a Bond movie, but not the main bad guy. He is not. Everybody in this movie says how smart he is. He knows everything. He knows where we are all the time. Blah blah blah. He seems like kind of a fucking schmuck to me.
Yeah.
He seems like an arms dealer.
Right.
I mean, they gotta have some smarts, but he doesn't seem like he's a genius.
Well, he's. And this goes back to just the problem of this movie. I feel like is Crichton has a concept here. He doesn't have a story, and by taking that concept, he's made like the most generic story and laid it out to be able to present this idea.
This is a pretty paint by numbers action cop movie. It just has some robots in it.
Tom Selleck, buying or selling?
I would never sell the Selleck. I'm always buying Selleck.
He's not bad. Like he
has like a natural feel to him in this movie.
He's
a guy who's actually been doing this for a few years.
He's got the alpha male quality of the 80s in particular.
I was half expecting him to start mansplaining how robots work to his female partner. But I'm like, okay, that never happens. Good.
No, because he was too dumb to understand anything about any sexual advances she was making towards him. Or
hey, you want to have dinner tonight? Oh, dinner? Yeah, I had dinner with all my partners. Doesn't matter that you're a woman. Oh, okay.
Okay, later.
She thought she was going to get laid.
Kirstie Alley. I thought she did pretty damn well.
She did good. I bought that she was like really afraid in this situation. Mm-hmm. Like, I guess what is her story anyway? She was in cahoots with Gene Simmons.
I thought
when they get back together, she kisses him, so they were pretty close. That's not like the first time they've kissed, okay?
I thought she just showed up to an audition and she was cast in a movie. And she showed up and delivered her lines all right. You mean she had more of a character than that?
Yeah.
Well, newsflash to me,
I guess the thing I'm thinking is like she's so afraid of Gene Simmons, but then when they get back together, she kisses him right away. So what the fuck? Is it? Oh, right. There were bruises all over her back.
Yeah.
They had this bug scanning scene where she had to take off all her clothes because that makes a lot of sense.
Basically, there's this just blatant scene of like, let's get Kirstie Alley naked for the crew.
We gotta scan you for bugs. Boop. Yeah. Here's a bug on your shirt. Take your shirt off. Boop. Here's another bug on your bra. Take your bra off.
Yeah.
Honey. Boop. Here's another one on your skirt.
Oh, take that off too.
And they even have a shot of Kirstie Alley going, oh, come on.
but no one else acknowledges how tacky it is.
The cops are just like...
Tom Selleck still got the same look on his face. Like, man, I really wish I was cast in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
In his defense, he was off in the corner not looking at Kirstie Alley.
Oh,
he was letting his partner take care of her.
He already knew
Yeah.
about the Scientology.
Well in advance. It's a super cheesy movie. The score really could use some help. If they could make a version of the movie without the score, it might be better. Yeah, it's hurting that bad.
It's kind of like Vangelis for me. Like Vangelis, it took a long time for me to get used to Vangelis and Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've seen Legend, also by Ridley Scott, like that, the other version of that movie. There's two versions of that movie. There's one with a Vangelis score, and there's one with a Jerry Goldsmith score.
Jerry Goldsmith?
That's very classical, though. It's classical composing.
Yeah.
With an orchestra.
Standard.
And Vangelis is known for his very synthetic sounds, and Goldsmith obviously is the opposite. Usually, with the exception of this movie, it was like I get to experiment because this is a cool movie, but Goldsmith's always been kind of an experimental composer from what I've heard. Like, Alien was a very experimental score. It had all kinds of strange sounds.
Yeah, that wasn't like a normal orchestral kind of a thing.
Yeah, but I think for this particular movie, they would have been better served with a regular, natural score. It might have actually helped the movie survive the test of time.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to see. There's another movie called To Live and Die in L.A., which I mentioned while we were watching the movie because there's some similar scenes.
I have seen it, but honestly I don't remember much of it.
And I seem to remember. We need to watch it again. Maybe that'll be a future episode.
You think so? It's not too mainstream for us, for our show here.
I mean, nobody's heard. I guarantee you, nobody's watched the damn movie.
Okay.
In our group. But I seem to remember that movie maybe having occasionally what I'm saying is, occasionally a movie will come along and have some kind of a strange score that lasts the test of time.
Yeah, not this one.
But it's rare.
This one isn't memorable. That's the thing. It's just generic.
Yeah.
They were just trying to be like,
just
ooh,
like
it's the 80s and we got
just
robots
like the
and let's make it
story
futuristic
and just like everything about it. The only thing that really stands out about the movie is the cast that's still acting today.
Mm-hmm.
And the acting's pretty good. For what it is, it's not bad, it's not awful. There's some moments in the movie, but...
Oh, there was that one moment, Tom Selleck is putting his kid to bed.
Oh.
And they're talking about, like, what were they talking about?
Yeah, there was clearly a blown take.
Yeah, it feels like they just forgot a line. The kid starts laughing. Tom Selleck laughs back, but they stick with it.
And it's like the most authentic thing. And they pull
the robot comes up to the door and says, "Hey, you've got a phone call." And Tom Selleck goes, "Okay, all right, you go to bed now, okay, son?" "Yes, sir." And they laugh, and it kind of works. It feels like a natural moment, even though it's totally
God
not.
love them. They left one natural moment in the movie. Thank God. And usually, I feel like they're an editor editing this kind of movie would be like, "Nah, we gotta put a standard take in there."
That's the kind of shit I would totally put in a movie I was cutting.
Oh yeah.
I would fight for something like that.
Because it makes that seem so much more authentic. Because you can see it in their
right. I think basically money people and producers on the project, they're too worried about.
Damn those generalized money people.
Yeah, the money people, because they're like, "Oh no, that doesn't look like a movie we're used to seeing. We want it to look like everything else."
What else did TriStar make in this era?
Did they do Neverending Story?
That I don't know. Why you're thinking because of the kid? You mentioned that maybe the kid in the movie.
I think it's the same kid from Flight of the Navigator, the one where the kid gets inside an alien spacecraft and flies all over the world, or whatever, with Pee Wee Herman as the robot.
I seem to remember RoboCop might have been TriStar. But point being is that I kind of wonder what we should look at, like what each studio was making at the time and see.
Mm-hmm. Oh, piece of trivia: the movie grossed $6.7 million. If it cost 10, that was a horrible flop. If it cost 5, that was just kind of like, at least we made our money back.
I'm guessing, probably grossly, that they spent $20 million on the movie.
Wow, I think that's way too much. If they, like you said later, 16 million, they made Aliens, which is about a bunch of military people blowing up a bunch of aliens.
To a generally no-name director, about a sequel to a sci-fi movie, and the only really successful sequels at that point had been Godfather 2 and Empire Strikes Back, which was kind of treated as its own.
It was 7 years after the original? It's been a
7 years. There were 7 years between Alien and Aliens, and
still, like
7 or 8 years between Aliens.
I know that James Cameron, he was a VFX guy. He knows how to make something on stage look like it's not on stage.
Right.
I get that, and Michael Crichton is no James Cameron.
No.
But Tom Selleck was a TV actor. Tom Selleck was lucky to have been in the movies at all. I don't think they dumped $20 million. 3 Men and a Little Lady. That's one we should watch. I don't think this was a $20 million at all.
Do you still like this movie?
Yeah, I still like it. Still a lot of fun. Even though I was making fun of it a lot while we were watching.
I'm not sure if I appreciate it
That's good.
for what it is.
You know, that's all I can
I
ask
don't think
for.
I'd ever need to see it again.
That's cool, too.
I did like.
I'll watch it by myself, asshole.
I actually liked the character interactions, and I thought some of the scenes in there were pretty good. If this movie were a rough draft,
Mm-hmm. Like
I
an
would
idea
say
in
that-
progress.
this is a good rough draft. Now, rewrite it 7 more times until you get a nice thing with a lot of intricate, interwoven storylines and moments. Like I was actually surprised they did dedicate a lot of time to making sure you were aware that Tom Selleck was afraid of heights.
Yeah, like, almost too much time. When I was watching it now, I was kind of going like, okay, we get it. He's afraid of heights.
But I feel like there was something else that was in there too.
Well, they spend enough time with him and the kid, so if you feel that it is a big part of his life. You know, the wife died a while ago.
Well, it doesn't feel like there's anything in the movie that doesn't necessarily belong there. Like structurally, it's pretty much there.
Yeah.
You know, it's got its acts. Maybe not crystal clear what they were, but it didn't feel like anything was too much or too little.
I think the only thing that was too much was Gene Simmons.
Probably.
And it's not only his acting, but like the dialogue he was given in his first scene when he's trying to pay for, quote unquote, pay for the chips. He's actually planning to assassinate the guy who's giving him the chips. This guy who worked for him, he says, "What are you gonna use all this stuff for?" "Oh, you know, military coups, assassinations, blah blah blah." He just, in one of his first lines, they just spill it like that. Like, that's it. He's in it for the money. Whoever's gonna pay him the most for this shit to kill people.
It's the most basic hero.
Right.
Who's who I am.
He's a bad guy. I'm not saying that we should ever feel sorry for him or anything, but that seems a little too one-dimensional.
Well, okay. Will you explain one scene to me? Because
I'll try.
I have a theory that Michael Crichton lost a bet.
Do I get to choose the scene?
I bet you already know what it is.
Okay, what?
There's one scene in the movie that just came out of nowhere that we were like,
Oh, the car?
wait, what? No, like the whole movie's played pretty straight. You know, you've got the concept's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
To borrow the term from our friends at Friends in Your Head, the Magic Bean Theory.
Never heard of him.
Magic Bean Theory being a movie is granted like one magic bean.
Oh, yeah,
You can
yeah.
have one outlandish concept, and in this case, it's
Right.
robots that kill.
But if you threw in time travel too, that's too many things.
Right.
Now you got robots time traveling.
So this one, in this case, he at some point towards the end, 2/3 into the movie, Tom Selleck is at the police station and he goes and talks to this woman. I can't remember her name. The woman basically is like
shit. I
she's
forgot
like
about it.
a soothsayer, and
She's basically a precog from Minority Report.
yeah, she tells him like the future, and we're like, I'm like, what the hell?
The cops get their hands on like a demo model, one of these missile bullets that can fly around, and Tom Selleck gives it to this psychic in the basement of the police station apparently, and she goes like, Oh, by the way, Gene Simmons' name is Charles Luther. That's a good villain's name, Charles Luther. But of course,
Well, they only call him Luther.
Yeah, they only call him Luther. But to lay on the symbolism, she's clutching the bullet thing in her hand, and she's going, is it an L name? Is it Lucifer? No, it's Luther. Oh, okay. I see what you're trying to do there, Michael Crichton.
So,
but it's just like,
I think he just lost a bet. Like,
yeah. Was that even necessary?
Well, yeah. What was it doing?
I
I
forget.
actually wondered if she was like a humanoid robot at first. Like, is she?
She's sniffing it for clues.
This is like a Westworld robot.
Yeah. Here's what they cover in the scene. She says like, "You used to be." There's even more. You used to be brothers in another life. Ugh. You've been close before, but you will get even closer. And he's just sitting there in the background impatiently going like, okay, psychic lady, when, where, tell me facts. And she doesn't give him any. So I don't know why the scene's in there. The movie runs 100 minutes. If you lost that, it would be 98 minutes. It's not a running time thing. Like, they didn't need to pad it.
Didn't need it at all.
No, it's totally useless, and it was just
Point being, revise your scripts.
Yeah. If you want to make a movie about
put
psychic
something
cops,
out
that's
there.
cool. But don't throw in robots in your psychic cop movie.
Would you suggest this movie to anybody else
Yeah.
besides our audience?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fun movie. Regardless of all of its many faults, it's a fun movie. It's got some laughs when the construction robot is chucking bags of cement over the edge.
Oh yeah. There's some pretty outrageous like moments, like just from a filmmaking point of view. I was watching these scenes going, man, that actually seems like it'd be pretty dangerous. Like
That cement bag fell within 3 feet of Tom Selleck.
Yeah, they're dropping bags of cement, like, presumably from not that high up on off camera. In the movie world, it's like
they're shooting him down hard enough to make him explode on impact, though, and shoot
like
dust everywhere.
It's got to be up a good 8 stories to get that kind of an impact, my guess. But they're dropping this within, really, maybe like 12 feet of the actors.
Yeah.
And it's landing on a pile of wood and like some loose objects. Like this could potentially hit those and launch a 2x4 through Tom Selleck's face.
I think Selleck was wearing aviator glasses. Nobody else was wearing safety glasses.
No. And the bag would hit and just explode, and they'd all just get blasted with cement
and
dust.
sand. And, yeah.
It's probably still in their lungs to this day.
I mean, the way you're describing this, how would people not want to watch this movie?
I mean, with the actress gets in the elevator, and there's no like safety rail on the elevator, and it just goes up 20 stories. She's like just standing on the edge, like doo doo doo. I don't know if I would recommend this movie to anybody. I see why you like it. I'm not sure why you like it.
But you just said you see why I like it.
But I'm not sure why. I think you just like Dolby Discreet 4.0 sound.
It sounds so amazing. The way the robot voices overpower everyone else in a scene.
You didn't tell me this actually has a Spanish and Portuguese
mono tracks.
audio.
They're mono. I thought it was like way below
That
us.
might make the movie worth watching. Put on
Portuguese.
Put on the Portuguese version of this movie. Well,
I like it, and I'm glad I got you to watch it.
Good. I'm glad.
Now I can die. I'm gonna go home and hang myself.
All right, and the same goes for the rest of you out there.
Woo! Hang yourselves!
Woo!